Hi, boys and girls. Welcome to Miss Manuelo's Math 8 class. This is what we are working on today. So go ahead and log in to your CPM ebook for today's lesson. And go ahead and take out paper and pencil to copy down today's lesson target. Feel free to pause the video if time needed. Who's ready to get started? Make sure to log in to Chapter 2, Section 2.1.2. What is the perimeter? Simplifying expressions by combining like terms. Go ahead and pause the video to read today's lesson introduction. Today we will continue looking at algebra tiles, but focusing on its perimeter. Problem 2-11, we will continue to use algebra tiles to name its area and to find the perimeter of each tile. So go ahead and finish reading problem 2-11 and go ahead and draw all the the 6 algebra tiles that we know. Now, if we don't have colors to shade them in, just a reminder that shaded gray or shaded in pencil means positive and not shaded represents the negative. So if we take a look at all the algebra tiles, here are the 6 algebra tiles that you looked at in the previous lesson. Now we also know the name of each tile. So let's go ahead and write in the name of each tile so that we can find its perimeter. And reminder, the name is based off its area. So this here is our 1 tile or the unit tile because 1 times 1 is 1. This one here is our X tile because the dimensions 1 times X is X. And so forth. So go ahead and finish naming the rest of the tiles and then press play once you have that in your notes. Okay, so in your notes you should also have the X squared, the Y squared, and the XY labeled. Now let's go ahead and take a look at its perimeter. Remember, perimeter means you add all the sides. Let's start with the unit tile. So each side length is 1. Therefore, the perimeter would be adding up all the sides, which will equal 4. The X tile has dimensions of 1 and X. So the perimeter would be combining your X plus X, those are like terms, and your 1 plus 1. So I have 2X plus 2 as your perimeter for the X tile. Continuing, each side length for my X squared tile is X. Therefore, if I add up all the sides, I end up with 4 X's. Next, my Y tile has a dimension of 1 and the other 2 sides a dimension of Y. I put my Y's together, combining my like terms, my 1's together, so then I end up with 2Y plus 2 for the perimeter. My Y squared tile each has a side length of Y. If I find the perimeter and I combine like terms, I end up with the perimeter of 4Y. Taking a look at our last tile, I have a dimension of X and a dimension of Y. So if I add up all my sides, I put my x's together and my y's together to combine like terms, I have 2x plus 2y. So for this problem, we know its area, which is called its tile's name, length times width. And then using what we know, we are able to find the perimeter of each tile. Moving on to problem 2-13, go ahead and pause the video to read the bullet points and to sketch A through D. You should have read that for each problem A through D, we are going to simplify its perimeter expression as much as possible by combining like terms. Terms that are the same, variable and power. So let's go ahead and begin with A. If you have not yet sketched it, pause the video and sketch A in your notes. So here we have a set of tiles, and we know the tile area or its name. So what we need to find is the perimeter, the outside. So here I have a side length of 1. I also have this side length of 1. Those are my unit tiles. Continuing, here is the x tile, so that's a side length of x. This is also a side length of x. Same goes for this tile here. Now we have our y tile with the dimension of y. So now that I've completed, you notice, labeling all the sides, I can now combine my like terms to simplify its perimeter. So I'm going to go ahead and have y plus y, which is 2y. We'll move on to my x's. I have x plus x plus x plus x, which is 4x. And then lastly, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. So the perimeter for this expression is 2y plus 4x plus 6. Now take a look at B. I would like for you to pause the video and think, how are B, C, and D different than A? One thing you could have noticed is that here, this unit tile interferes with the X tile. So when we're being asked to find the perimeter, it's not the full length of X. And so this here is what we are going to have to look for. So let's start off with that unit tile and label each side length. The fourth one is inside, so I do not need to label that because I'm only being asked to find the perimeter. Now let's go ahead and continue. This side length is the full X tile, so I'm going to write X. And I actually have one more 1 unit tile, which is here and here. All right, so we're almost done, but now we are left with this part here, in which it's not X, but it's X minus this overlap here, which is 1. Okay, so now let's go ahead and find the perimeter. So I have X plus X, then I have all my 1s. There's 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I have a minus 1. So combining like terms, I'm left with 2x plus 5. Let's go ahead and continue. Go ahead and take a look at C. I'm going to have you pause the video and actually give it a try. Copy down the drawing, label all its side, and find the perimeter. Then go ahead and press play to check your work. All right, so here we have Y, X, X, 1, 1, 1. Now I end up with two side lanes that are actually intervened. So here the full side lane would be Y, but because this part we're not being asked, it's not the outside of the shape, we only need this part, which is Y minus X. And then this part here, it's not the full X, it is X minus 1. All right, so we go ahead and find the perimeter. I'm going to go ahead and first put my Y's. I see 1, 2, 3, 4 Y's. My X's, 1, 2, 3, and then one of them is actually a minus X. And then my 1's, I have 1, 2, 3, and the other one's actually a minus 1. All right, so from here, I'm going to go ahead and combine the like terms. So I have 4Y, and that is 3X minus X, so 2X. And then that is 3 minus 1, so that's plus 2. So the simplified perimeter expression would be 4Y plus 2X plus 2. Okay, now let's go ahead and take a look at our last one. Again, go ahead and pause the video, give it a try. All right, so here we have Y. Then I have here X, and an X. That would be an X, and this is an X. And let me go ahead and label the ones. So that little piece is a 1, that's also a 1, and this is a 1. Same goes for below. That dimension is a 1, along with this side. Okay, so now the only piece left is this part here, which is not a full Y, but it's a Y minus this part here that represents inside, part of the inside. So that's actually 1, so it's Y minus 1. So now the perimeter, I'm going to go ahead and put my Y's together, then my X's, and then all my 1's. I have 1, 2, 3, 6, 7 minus that 1. Okay, so if I combine like terms, I have 2Y plus 1, 2, 3, I think 1, 2, 3, I missed the next, plus 4X, then 6, 7 minus the 1 plus 6. So there is my simplified expression for perimeter. Okay, before moving on, we're actually going to go back to B and let's correct the error. Hopefully you were able to identify it. But here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 5 1 tiles minus the 1. So it actually ends up being plus 4. Okay, so now let's take a look at problem 2-14. Go ahead and read this problem. And to best set up this problem, you are going to write what we got for a simplified expression from the previous page. So for example, for A, we got 4x plus 2y plus 6. Or it could be the other way around according to commutative property. So if we wanted to write it down as 2y plus 4x, either way, commutative property says the answer is the same. Doesn't matter the order. So I finished reading it and writing down the rest, B, C, and D. Okay, so now that I have these 4 expressions written, you should have read that in this problem you're being asked to evaluate. If the x tile is 3 and the y tile is 8, what is the perimeter? So when we are evaluating, basically that means we're plugging in for the variable. So if the x tile is 3, wherever I see the x, I'm going to insert 3. Where then the y tile is 8, so wherever I see the y, I insert 8. And then everything else remains the same. Now we are going to use order of operations in that we are going to multiply first, so that's 16. This is 12. And then I'm going to add from left to right. So 16 plus 12 is 28. 28 plus 6 is 34. So after evaluating, the perimeter is 34 units. Okay, go ahead and pause the video and give the remainder of the problems a try. So same, x is 3, y is 8. Okay, so for B, we insert the 3 for the x. According to order of operations, you should have done multiplication first and then add left to right. So 16 units. Moving on to C. Now let's go ahead and do it. All right, so I have 8 in for y, 3 in for x. Everything else remains. And again, according to order of operations, this problem, we're going to go ahead and use multiplication first. This here is separated by the plus. So I have 4 times 8 is 32. 2 times 3 is 6. Add from left to right. I end up with 40 units. Okay, last one. 8 in, substitute in for y. 3 substitute in for the x. Everything else remains. Order of operations, we're going to multiply first. So that's 16, that's 12. Notice it's separated by the plus. Add from left to right. So you end up with 34 units. Returning to today's focus, remember we used algebra tiles and we used what we know about its area to find its perimeter.